Hello. You're on mute.
Hey,
Hey, what's up?
I just watched I guess half of the Michael Saylor and Peter Diamandis video.
I'm not familiar with him.
He was also who was the one you mentioned?
Lex Friedman.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Friedman.
Peter went to Stanford with him. They were classmates.
MIT.
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 Very big difference.
Oh, really?
MIT? Yeah.
Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
I would say they're comparable schools, wouldn't you?
No.
No?
No.
No? Okay.
MIT is where you learn to build missiles and
It'd be like going to
really
Caltech.
what's that?
Caltech's the same as MIT.
Oh, is
So
it?
Caltech out, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounded fascinating.
The one with Lex Friedman is pretty I'll find it and post it up, but
No,
it's
I know who Lex Friedman is. I think I just saw him interview Sam Altman.
yes. He
Yeah.
interviewed Jeff Bezos. That was an interesting one.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
No, I
very
haven't seen that.
black suit, white black tie, always very
I don't think.
somber.
Yes, yes. Very and very no, not a lot of emotion.
No,
I thought it was interesting and I think of this regularly. He was talking to Sam Altman, and Sam Altman made the comment or asked the question, do people still on their computer use capital letters? Yeah. He said
Sam Altman said that.
yeah, he said, why would you waste the time hitting that capital button?
It's called
Grammar.
uh you were horrible at English and you just scraped by your whole life and you are now taking pride in how you present yourself.
This was Sam Altman said, I don't use capital letters.
I would have such a hard time with that.
Uh, it's a waste of time. When you do a Google search, does anybody use capital letters?
Yeah.
Oh,
I actually asked when I type something in ChatGPT, I always say, "Would you please work on this?" I don't know what it is, but it's manners. Even though I know it's a machine, I'm like,
yeah.
when you start throwing that out, you start not capitalizing or punctuating correctly.
Yeah.
End of it's the Roman Empire again.
Uh, maybe, I don't
You
know.
you go look and see if they started not capitalizing at the end of their reign.
You think?
Why would you chisel a capital letter into that granite? A
Oh,
waste of time.
okay. Well, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting question, particularly something I had never thought of, but it particularly coming from him. And he basically, when Lex said, "Yeah, I think most people really," he says, I haven't done that for years." Uh, okay. Is it 3 o'clock? It's 3:04.
304.
Um, been an interesting week. Where do I want to start? Um, can I share my screen?
Yep. Just a second. Okay.
I want to go where first? I want to go there. But I first want to go here. And I want to go here. I got a comment, I guess it was, on one of my videos. And it was from Power Monkey. That's his handle on and he do you notice anything strange about this chart? Mark, do you notice anything strange about this chart?
I'm not really keen on the color choices you made.
Okay. Power Monkey said somebody is building a position in AEHR. And I went and looked at the chart and I'll say, I'll be damned. He's exactly right. Look at that volume line. See the spikes?
Where is AEHR?
See this? See that? See that? See that? See that? See that? See that?
I think we're looking at your chart, your
I'm
cheat
looking-
sheet.
Oh.
I was
Okay.
like, I knew I shouldn't have eaten that salmon.
Okay. Well, no. That's not where I'm at.
No.
So how do I do that?
Just log out again.
Stop share.
Yeah, and then go back to share and identify that screen when it comes up with the different screens and click that one.
That's not it.
Mark, what is the report?
There it is.
Oh.
You see that?
Yeah.
You see those spikes?
Yeah.
And this was Power Monkey pointed this out to me, and I'd never noticed that before. But that's obviously somebody building a position, an AEHR, and coming in like once a week and pushing the purchases from 650,000 to 9.5 million.
Well, that volume is sell volume.
Yep.
How would you know that?
It's red.
It's red. Yeah, if it was green, it would be buy.
Selling. That's saying that the stock was down on that day. That you don't. There's a buy and sell on both sides.
Right, but there's more sellers than buyers.
No, there's one of each.
Yeah, some are green, some are red.
Right. There's one of. I mean, there's.
So they came in and they sold.
No. There's a buyer and seller on every trade.
Yeah, but the volume of selling is greater than the buying.
The bulk of the trade that day brought the price down. That's why that line's red. Not because there were more sellers. It's because the momentum of the day, it's showing on a green day, the spike is green. That doesn't tell me that there's an equal amount of buyers and sellers on every day.
There's more. The volume represents, it represents, if it's red, there are more sellers than buyers that day.
Right.
No, there aren't.
Yeah, there are.
For every share that trades, there's a buyer and there's a seller. It's equal.
It's not.
If someone was accumulating, the price would probably go up as opposed to down.
If somebody sells, who's buying?
Someone else.
The market maker makes a market for it. He has to make a market for it.
Right.
So does that mean he's accumulating shares?
Somebody is.
So he can redistribute it?
Somebody is.
I mean,
There's a buyer and seller on every trade.
Right, but go back to February, just before the 6th. Look at the spike there. So I bought a ton with the idea. I mean, that's program trading right there. That's somebody
accumulating a position.
No, if it's red, they're not accumulating, they're selling it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
I totally
That's-
disagree.
that's
Well,
not,
that's the way
I
the
go
market
in and
works.
I'm accumulating a position, me personally. And
You're
I buy
buying.
if
500
you're,
shares. What
if-
day do I want to buy it on? I want to buy it on that day, right?
but you're looking at 8.3 million shares on that day. And so if someone was accumulating that much, it would be, the price would go up, not down.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree on that one.
Okay.
Okay, now
You
let's
can
see
see there's a big gap there.
a big gap there.
Yeah, from the day before to the top of
Oh,
the
yeah,
wick.
yeah.
So
okay.
something happened that day to make that price go down and people panicked and sold is what happened.
Okay, let me go. Now do you see this?
What is it? What is it?
Did my screen change to my
No.
cheat
No.
sheet? Okay, I guess I gotta
Nope.
go back and do it again. Okay, I showed you this last week. This will start appearing in the near future on the web page. And again, I'm just going to quickly explain what I'm doing. I believe that the price of a stock is determined by a company's capability to generate profits, and those profits are expressed in an increase in earnings per share. So if we look at NVIDIA, and we see that this is their earnings per share, $1.66 down to 113. We have a 32% decrease. As we came to 2023, the earnings per share was $1.74, and it went up to $12.95. That's a 645% increase. The stock responded by going up 76%. The market actually anticipated that increase from 174 to 1260 because they published it and said, we're going to have an increase in our earnings per share. So in this year, it went up $239. Now, as we move to 2020, from 2024 to 2025, NVIDIA has said that their earnings will go from 1296 to 2493. So that's why we're up 76%. And then they say in 2027, they'll go up to $30.13. So I come up with a ratio that for every percentage point, or 58% it goes up in earnings, the stock price goes up 68%. That's an average of all of those numbers and all of those numbers. So what I'm trying to do is determine, based on earnings per share, what can I anticipate the price to go up? And it's basically telling me it'll go up 117% or 17% more than the earnings. So in 2021 or in 2025, I'm predicting the price will be $1,828. And in 2026, it'll be 2,000. And that'll give me a total gain for the 2 years of 159%. So then when I come over here and say, how much my portfolio do I want allocated to it? And I say 6%, that represents 44 shares. And that's what it'll end up being in 2026. So I've done that for every stock. And what I want to do is make this available to each and every one of you. Not only that you can come to it and look at it on the website, but my objective is to put it on your computer. And that is to say, it will be, what would it be like, Trent?
So it would be
I subscribe to Zacks, and Zacks gives me a report on my portfolio. I want you to be able to access this and then come down here and enter a ticker symbol and get that printed out for you and every one of those boxes filled. Because I think this will eventually evolve into a very effective way of predicting what the price of a stock is going to be. Look at Meta. We're at 48% ups in the earnings. Their price goes up 37%. So when Meta says that their earnings are going to go up 16% in 25, that translates to a 12% increase in price. When they say it's going to be 15% in 26, that interprets to 11. Now, what I know is when they have their earnings report, probably later this month, these numbers will change. And it will give me a more accurate level. I learned that just this week as APLD reported. These numbers changed. And as a result, that stock, you'll have to pay them $2.50 to own it. Because they brought their earnings down from, this was a positive number up until earlier this week, but they've decreased their earnings outlook. What I do know, though, in 2027, they're projecting $1.27. So I will hold my APLD and wait until 2027 to cash in, because it is a data center, and data center, we aren't going to have enough of them. So my objective basically is I've put this together, and I know there are engineers who can do better than me. What I've built is an algorithm. That's what this is. And I'm going to feed, I had to manually go in and feed all of that line and all of that line on every one of these stocks. Now, we have the ability, if we know how to do it, to have a data source that we can tie to this, and it'll happen automatically. I want that on your computer. Okay? In order to do that, we have to build the subscription base for Best of Us investors. My goal is 10,000. 10,000 people paying us $60 a month, which will generate what? $7.2 million a year. And then I can go out and hire the best of people to have access, or to build a tool that will give you the ability to do world-class analysis to help you make better investment decisions. Because what I've learned is the data's out there. Am I the first person to do this? No. Goldman Sachs has 43,600 employees. They have at least 100 of them that can do this. They pay them probably something in the neighborhood of $250,000 a year to do it. Well, why can't we do that? We can, if we pool our money and go about putting it together. The other thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to unshare my screen.
Hey, before you jump off real quick
Okay.
to the AEHR spikes.
Yeah.
they come, the majority of them come the day after earnings.
Okay, let me go back to that.
If you go to Trading Views, you can see, for instance,
That is
March
true.
March
That is
30th.
true.
Yeah, that's all that is.
Okay. So you think Power Monkey and I are wrong?
About accumulating.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not, this is not an explanation of they're accumulating. This is explanation of reaction to earnings
Okay.
or knowing something about earnings.
Okay.
So is it
Well, it's
accumulating?
interesting that they beat earnings by 13%, but the stock went down.
Yeah, because everybody,
They beat earnings by 8% and the stock went down.
buy on the rumor, selling the news.
They beat the earnings by 9% and the stock stayed level. Okay. I stand corrected.
There you go.
The other thing I feel like I came late to the party on this one, as I explained it to Mark and Trent. I stumbled across a stock called Micro Securities,
MicroStrategies.
yesterday. And I came to learn that it is a company in somewhere in the Northeast. And let me go back to my chart.
Just before you get any further, you will be
Mhm.
getting an official tinfoil hat for
Am
what
I
you're
getting
about to say.
What is that about?
The
Oh,
tinfoil hat.
yeah.
It's a UFO thing.
Okay, this is MicroStrategies. It was a company that was founded in 1983, and I probably need to go more than, let me look, 5 years. And back in 2020, and I was just watching a video on the founder of this company by the name of Michael Saylor. And Michael Saylor felt that his company was going to be eaten alive by Microsoft and he couldn't compete because he was trying to do the same thing, and that the company was going to die. So he devised the strategy to go out and take all the cash he had and in the company and buy Bitcoin. And he did that in 2020. So as a result of that, he currently has $13 billion worth of Bitcoin inside of this company. He has more Bitcoin in that company than any other company in the world. He did it before Elon Musk did it. And you can see what happened to his stock. And if we come up here and we add Bitcoin to the chart, that's Bitcoin. And as you can see, his stock started reflecting the movement of Bitcoin. Okay, now I want to take it down to 1 year. And what happened there, this is Bitcoin now. This is his stock. Because what he did was he then went out and mortgaged his company. And he took the assets of the company and he borrowed money against them and he bought more Bitcoin. So he leveraged up. And that's what's happened. So I saw this, and I think it's in today's video. I came across it, and I says, I had no idea what this company does, and I didn't until last night when I did some research, and I realized what it is. This is another way to buy Bitcoin, but as it looks to me, because of the difference between this and this, it's a way for you to benefit from his leveraging up his company. I could achieve this same thing if I mortgaged my house and bought Bitcoin with it. But in my mind, I'd rather him take the risk than me. So that if he's wrong, all I lose is what I've invested in here and not lose my house. That's my interpretation of it. I bought 10 shares of it no more than a half an hour ago. So I've got about $14,000 invested in it. In fact, I got it for $1,460. So I'm already up $16 per share. I would encourage you, write down the name. And again, I'm late to the party. Write down the name, Michael Saylor. I just watched a video with Peter Diamandis. Trent and Mark tell me I also need to watch one with Lex Friedman.
Yeah.
And learn about this. And make your own decision. But it looks to me like this is a guy, as he says in his interview, he has no fear. Fear is not something that he has ever dealt with. And so he basically saved his company and mortgaged his company to buy Bitcoin. And so if you don't want to mortgage your house and you want to participate in Bitcoin, this might be a way to go about it. Okay? I hope that's worth the price of entrance. All right.
Well, I think it's one of those.
Is that because because I finally came across to Bitcoin? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm a slow learner.
There are also aliens too. All right. So
Okay. If you say so.
I think I'll put the Lex Friedman one up. It's almost 4 hours long interview. And it's a very high level conversation between the two because Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Lex Friedman's a rocket scientist or something like that.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's like ridiculously smart.
Really smart. Really smart.
He's crazy.
Well, Michael Saylor went to MIT, and I think he was aerospace engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, and so their conversation is really high level, but I think that you get there if you watch it a time or two, or rewind certain sections of it. He explains his process. He was not one of those. We need to change the currency system.
No.
We need to get out of the central bank system. He looked at it from the standpoint of the concept of minimum supply and demand and what it represented from the standpoint of store of value versus a currency. And that I think also, a lot of people say the whole cryptocurrency title is misleading. It's not a currency. It's
right.
In the case of Bitcoin, it's a store of value. And if you think of store of value from this perspective of if I buy something, does it hold its value over time? If I keep my money in a savings account in US dollars, is my dollar still have the buying power that it did a year earlier? And his argument is no. And if you look at the value of the US dollar, because we manufacture dollars over and over through printing, we're diluting our dollar share. So Bitcoin represents a store of value, and it holds its value because there will be no more than 21 million Bitcoin, and there will be less available as we go. I think the last Bitcoin will be mined, I think, in 2149, I think it is.
I
115
just
years.
watched that and I thought he said the
115 years will be the last one. By the
yeah, he
time
said
they
that
have, it'll be like a little Satoshis when they get to the final halving.
Yeah. But what is happening, the whole big movement here recently with the ETF approval by the SEC, but also the halving, which comes next week they say the 20th, but I've seen the 17th through the 21st. At some point in that range, it's supposed to hit its magic number. And the number of Bitcoin that is being mined today is 900 a day. That will get kind of to 450. And then 4 years from now, 2028, it'll be 200. And 25 will be,
Yep.
will be mined. And then so on and so forth. And that's why it's so far out in the last Bitcoin that'll be mined. But his argument, and it's a very good interview, I just posted it there. I believe that's the full interview. Is that there is not really an asset class today that you buy and the value holds its value. So that if you bought it today, and the reason is like gold, you can mine more gold. As silver, you can mine more silver. Commercial real estate, chances are they'll build more commercial real estate. And so it's a very good argument for what he's doing, and it's honestly saved his company. And he has become I guess, spokesman in a big way for Bitcoin. But it's interesting.
yes, it is. It's I guess, and I even read a book about Bitcoin, but I guess I never truly bought into that it wasn't something a government couldn't stop. And once he said, don't think of it as a threat to currency, think of it as a store of value, much like a building or a house, but you don't have to pay maintenance and upkeep and taxes on it. So I'm a believer.
We'll send your hat in the mail here soon.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Scott.
Hey, about Bitcoin, if it's going to run out of being mined in about 2040, and there's not going to be any more supposedly, why would the value of it keep rising? Now, there's the scarcity of it, I understand, but the people that have it are the people that have it.
Demand.
That don't.
But you gotta,
Go ahead.
it's kind of like a Picasso. I look at it that way. That okay, I'm Picasso and I painted 20 pictures and they're each different, but there's only one of each.
Picasso.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So there's
You know
only
what
one of each.
Scott, you know what that auctioned for last time?
No, I don't.
$52 million.
Yeah, I understand the painting hanging on the wall looking nice and pretty, but a Bitcoin in your safe or cold storage wallet being spendable and usable, and when only part of the world has access to them,
Well,
how can it be used efficiently for the world economy if they're going to run out of them?
well, you don't run out of them. There's a set
There's so
amount.
many of them.
They'll be. They say they lost about 7 million. So let's just say we're at 14 billion when it's all done. There's over 8 billion people in the world. Okay, So there's not even enough for one for each person in the world. So it's a matter of supply and demand. Okay, there's only so much supply. Like going back to that Picasso or that bottle of whiskey that Kerry has. There's only so many of them. So again, scarcity creates demand, and demand creates without supply creates an increased price. So if I wanted to go buy an Apple iPhone, I could. Okay, now they spend $1,500 for them, but there's a bunch of Apple iPhones out there and they make them all the time. Okay, they don't make any more Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin, if I have a tenth of a Bitcoin, and I just bought it last week when we were talking about it, so it cost me $6,750. Okay, and let's say that the price goes up, and you can see all the models. They have models, and Plan B has his model, and it shows how in 4-year cycles Bitcoin has gone up. It's a mathematical deal, and they're talking about after each halving it at least doubles. Okay, a halving's coming up in a week from today. Mm-hmm. So if I bought it at 67.50 and it doubles, okay, now I've doubled my money. Okay.
Is that what's
so
going
if
to
I
happen?
keep it? What's that?
Is that what's going to happen when Bitcoin starts halving next week? My Bitcoin that I hold is going to double?
Well, past history shows that it has. Now, past history doesn't mean what's going to happen in the future. I have no magic ball on what's going to happen. So I look at the same data everybody else looks at. And I said, well, what is 67? How many shares of NVIDIA does $6,700 buy? You know, so what's my risk?
Right.
This is the way I look at it. Just me. My risk is $6,700.
Right.
What's my reward on the top? Well, I've been watching this for 4 years, and I've probably watched 400 or 500 hours of video from Michael Saylor to Raoul Paul to all these guys who know about it a lot more than I do. Right. And even Kathy Wood has estimated it's going to go to 3.8 million per Bitcoin. Now, if you believe it or not, whatever, you know. But my upside is, let's say I go with Kathy Wood, or I just go with doubling it. My upside is double, and my downside is $6,700. Right. Okay, or a tenth of a Bitcoin. Okay, and you can each Bitcoin can be divided up into 100 million Satoshis. That's like a cent is to a dollar, a Satoshi is to a Bitcoin. Okay, so if you have a tenth and it goes to $1 million, okay, and you spent $6,750 to get it, you now have $100,000. Okay, so for me, I look at it and just watching and what it does and where they think it's going to go, and I just use it as, you know, I use it as a hedge against our currency devaluing, against stock markets going down. Okay, because this can't be printed like our dollar can. This can't be diluted like NVIDIA shares can be diluted if they decide to go out and double the amount of shares they have to go buy a new factory or process new chips. Then that dilutes me as a shareholder. Well, this won't happen in Bitcoin. Okay, so the idea of Bitcoin is, you know, you keep it for as long as you want. Okay, if you need something, let's say you have one Bitcoin, Scott, and it goes to $1 million. Now you have $1 million of value in that Bitcoin. It's a store of value.
Right.
Are you going to sell that Bitcoin and translate it into fiat currency, which devalues at 10%? Probably not. If your wife wants to go on a vacation to Europe and do it first class, might you sell 0.000000 whatever of a Bitcoin so you can pay for that? Transfer it over into fiat dollars and take your trip? You can. Yeah. You know, and so that's really what it's about. Okay, for me. Mm-hmm. And I know Bob from Florida and New Jersey. He's been in it for a while, and he's got his Shiba Inu sitting on his lap there. So, right, Bob? So Bob has done this. He's probably got, from what I took on the Platinum channel, about the same kind of idea about Bitcoin that I have. Would you say, Bob?
Yeah. It's, I've been in for a while now. It's accumulate and just hold. And just, you have to ignore the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And Michael Saylor, Kerry, that play has been, that's been happening for a while. MicroStrategy, MSTR.
Yeah,
What he does, I just want to make everybody aware of it because this is something that I've been invested in and gotten out of and back in numerous times. He allows that stock to climb. Then he starts selling stock. When it gets around $1,700-$1,800,
yeah.
he starts selling. He sells his stock to buy more Bitcoin.
Oh,
Okay.
on a personal basis?
On a personal basis. He takes his options and he starts, you'll start seeing, if you sign up for it, you'll see the notifications that he's put in to sell. Sold 100,000 shares, X amount. He takes that money and he buys Bitcoin with it
For himself.
for himself. So you guys all know the game. So it drives the stock price down to around $1,400. I've seen it go to about 13 and change. And then it starts to go back up again. So
Yep.
every time it gets around 1,700, you'll get a notification that he's selling his
Really?
stock. Yeah.
Okay.
He's
So
that
he's
much of a
very open
believer in it.
about it.
What?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
and
He's got everything in it.
you'll find that a lot of the early adopters are true believers, and they're not selling. Okay, so Trent, I don't know how many Bitcoins have not moved since they've been bought, but it's a large percentage of the amount of Bitcoins out there. People
Suppose
don't trade them.
it's about 75% of
Yeah.
what has been mined was mined or bought and has never sold.
Right.
So it's never
So,
had a round trip.
and the other thing that's happened is we've had in January, the SEC has approved ETFs for spot Bitcoin. So BlackRock is the biggest, Fidelity, Kathy Wood. There's 11 different ETFs out there trying to buy as much Bitcoin as they can in a world where it is limited each and every day, and there's just not that much out on the market. So Monday, I think they're going to approve it in Hong Kong. So there can be Hong Kong and Chinese ETF spot ETFs also. So that'll increase demand further. And then, of course, a week from today is the halving. So we're going from 900 to 450 mined. So it's a big supply and demand play for me. And I see Sarah is asking about, I don't trade Bitcoin. Okay, I'm just going to accumulate, and I have different tranches of it. And also I have bought in some of the ETFs too. I think Bob, you've bought some of the ETFs. I put some of the ETFs for Bitcoin into my retirement account, and I'm just going to let it sit.
I've done the same. I have iBit.
That's what I have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The best performer, and the fees, there's very little fees right now.
Who's behind iBit?
BlackRock.
BlackRock.
Okay.
I also have one called BITO, and it deals with options and futures of Bitcoin, and it pays. I think the last month it pays monthly. I think it paid me 16% last
What
time.
is that, Mark?
BITO.
Okay.
Now that doesn't own Bitcoin. That just plays futures and options, I believe. Now
Okay.
remember, this stuff, Bitcoin is not for the faint of heart. And like Bob said, you just kind of got to buy it if you're going to be in it. I don't trade, but it will, like today. It's down today, $3,600 as we speak right now. Okay, 5.17%. It's at 67.3. A week ago when we were talking about it, it was 67.5. Went up to 73 this week, and now it's back down. So if you have a weak heart, you probably don't want to get into this or anything associated with it because it'll kill you.
I got enough things killing me.
That's part of old age.
So I am learning.
So far, Kerry, it hasn't given me diarrhea yet.
I had it for a week,
Yeah,
but I'm happy to say it's getting solid.
A
Thanks for
little more
sharing.
information I think we need to know.
a little too much. Yep, I agree. Bob.
Bob, I realized something. I went up to Birmingham this week. It's been a handful of days. As you get older, the filter goes away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And you know what? I can understand. You've been around this long.
that's right.
Feel free, say whatever you like.
I let loose on my kids all the time. Don't hold anything back.
There you go. So,
Nothing wrong with transparency.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw this chart of Bitcoin up real quick. Yeah, let me see here. But I found I thought this was interesting. I'm curious to see where it closes today. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
Okay.
There it is.
I'm
You see this?
curious tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day I want to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, you see this trend line, and it's a rough drag. Every time it comes towards this trend line and hits, and then closes above it. So I'm curious to see where it closes today, and then tomorrow, like you were saying, Bob,
That's right.
does
yeah.
this basically this triangle here, as it narrows, or will we see this thing break out by next Friday? And I mean, there's a good chance. There's also a chance that it could head south based on the hype of it. But I don't know. I find it interesting how it is narrowing its progression here recently, and getting tighter and tighter range since what is that? Since beginning of March or so.
If it does, strike down, it's gonna do a drop, and it's gonna go right back up.
Yeah,
That's been the behavior. The Michael Saylors of the world and the rest of them that are Bitcoin believers, they have buy-ins already down in the $40,000-$50,000 ranges, and
Right.
probably even less.
Hmm.
So if it goes, it's not going to last long.
no, it'll be quick.
So it's always good to have buys for those lower numbers, because you can wake up in the morning and your order got filled.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll see a big wick
A
down.
lot of action happens at night while you're sleeping.
this is why
Good to know.
you shouldn't sleep.
Oh, the hardcore Bitcoiners, they're up on the weekends at night. They're not sleeping at night. They're up till
Right.
in the morning.
Yeah, I I like it from the perspective of it's rare. It's you don't put the whole farm on it, but it is rare and it's an asset, or in the math behind it just makes so much more sense. And I after going through the whole 60 to 15 drop, it can go down, but that doesn't mean that it's going to how do I put it? If Nvidia drops from 800 and some dollars to 300, that affects a lot more in a sense. That can be a demand issue. That can be looked at a whole lot of different variables can factor in that drop in a company's stock price drop. Whereas there's only so many. There is no human element to it. There's no governing body to it. It is what it is. And to me, that's where when you get these moves, the moves are not going to be. They're not going to stay down for long because
Yeah, but
something will spike it.
we got the halving coming up, And then, so only 450 Bitcoin are mined per day,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Demand's higher than that.
Way
So
higher.
the obvious, what's gonna happen? All right,
Yeah,
that's not going down. If it goes down, it's gonna go down for, 2 seconds, and it's gonna go back up.
yeah,
And it's gonna bust through, it's just a matter of time.
yeah.
Michael Saylor always says in his interviews, it's either going to 0 or to 1 million, and it's not
That's
going to
right.
0.
I don't
Yeah.
know about a million, but I would say the next stop is somewhere about 100,000.
They're
Yeah,
saying,
and
it's all over the place, but about the medium I've seen is like 140, 150 by the end of the year.
Right. I'm not saying by the end of the year, I'm saying within the next 3 months. I think it's 100.
yeah, I th- yeah, and then
Which, 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 if that happened and you had a tenth of one, it's 6,600 now, $6,700. You would have $10,000.
That's right.
And again, that's only a 30% increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
And
a
then
couple
you
of
look-
months.
What's wrong with that, Kerry?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, put it in perspective.
Okay.
Supermicro did a 750
Yeah.
increase in 1 year. So
If it
put it
was
in perspective.
stock,
I
But-
mean, it's a big number.
right. But if it was a stock, you would start considering getting out.
But a
Yeah.
year
Right.
ago, what was Bitcoin a year ago? 19,000, Trent? Now it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
66,
Exactly.
67.
well, here's the other element of that. Why did Supermicro go up? What was the variable that caused Supermicro to go up, and why is it now going down? So there's that human element. There's that demand
Sure.
for their product they manufacture. Bitcoin manufactures no product. I think that's and that's sort of it's like comparing apples to oranges to to an extent. Um, super micro went up, Nvidia went up in January. Why'd that happen? Well, that maybe it's the Chip Act and all the excitement of all the money going into the production of foundries and this, that, and the other, and then AI. Bitcoin hasn't done any of that. They're just doing a halving, and there's a demand for it because now we're printing $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. People are starting to look at it and go, that's interesting. That could be a problem. And then you get Larry Fink and BlackRock and all these big boys coming into it and saying, hey, maybe this is legit. Maybe we need to protect ourselves and we want to make money off it. So there's fewer variables that move Bitcoin versus a stock or something like that.
Let's talk about what happened on the market today and what I think has been happening as Apple, Adobe, we talked about those two last week, how they look just alike. And then today the NASDAQ was down how much? About 3%?
I don't.
It ended up about 1.62 down.
Oh, okay.
It came
Okay.
back a little.
All right.
One other thing, Kerry, before you start, I gave the wrong symbol. Instead of BITO, it's BITO, not BITI.
You gave me a BITO.
TO.
Yeah,
That's the one. Yeah, that's
That's
the
what you gave
correct
me.
one.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, look into it. Do your own due diligence. Don't take my word for it.
Oh, no, I wouldn't.
You could lose all your money.
I won't put all my money in it.
Okay.
Okay. I think would you agree that we are approaching this correction we have all been saying had to come at some time?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
We
remember
went
you
through,
did Mark,
we
you
went
did a
through the
chart where you had the NASDAQ coming into a
rising wedge.
yeah. Can we look at
Yeah, I
that?
still have that. Yeah. Hold on.
And did we close below the support line of the wedge?
Okay, hold on. All right, let me share my screen. So I'll
Yes,
show
it
you.
looks like we did.
This is the SPY. This is S&P.
Right.
You can see we broke out below the wedge, and here we are. Now we're actually down right on the, we're underneath the 20. We're right down on the Bollinger Band right now, lower. So yeah, we broke out there. Let's go look at the Dow Jones is really broke out. You can see here it's just gone down, and we're down below the Bollinger Band again here. I drew this line a couple weeks ago
Yeah, I
and said this
remember
is where
that.
it's headed. There it is.
Yeah.
So and you know the MACD is horrible, stochastic is horrible. This is on the on the DIA. Let's look at the Qs. Qs are a little stronger. I don't know how they finished. I didn't look. Oops. Let me get one more Q in there. Yeah, here we go.
Still broke through.
Oh, let me pull this over a little bit. It's kind of gone sideways.
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll see what happens. You still have the magnificent whatever it is now, 4, 3, 6. I can't remember anymore. But we're playing around on this lower Bollinger Band, and we'll see what happens. This is the line I drew a couple weeks ago. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But again, MACD down, stochastic down. You're seeing down days with the big volume comes the down days.
And let's talk about what is making this happen. The talking heads have given up basically on 7 interest rate cuts this year. They're down to 2 and maybe none. Although they talk about inflation has slowed down, every time I go to the grocery store, and it's interesting, since my wife broke her foot, I have to go to the grocery store. And I'm shocked at what I'm the old man who comes to the cash register, and every time he says, I remember when I was first married, we only paid $10 for the groceries we needed for the week. And I feel like that commercial, where they say, don't act like your dad.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the dad.
Yeah, Geico. Yeah.
So no, I don't see inflation coming down. I other things that I've observed, that I listened to the AEHR call this week, and I was shocked at how the CEO says, I'm spending most of my time in Asia and China. He said, because that's the future growth. We have some major customers in the United States, but our future is in particularly China. He said, because the Chinese are unlike the US EV market. The Chinese EV market is doing extremely well, and they are more interested in quality than the US semiconductor makers. They do not want any of their cars to crash or fail because of a lack of burn-in on a semiconductor. I found that very interesting, which is in total contrast to everything I see on the news, that the Chinese are our biggest threat in the world. And of course, he's dealing not with the Chinese government, but he's dealing with Chinese companies who want to be competitive and want a quality product. Is it SEAN? SEAN? Mrs.
Sean.
White?
Sean,
Sean? Okay,
you're on mute.
unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Thank
Go up.
you.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Hawaii.
Oh, I was wondering where is she from? She's sitting outside.
It's Hawaii.
Okay,
Beautiful
wonderful.
island of the Big Island Kona.
Okay.
And saying this is our first time actually on the Zoom call because our days off got changed. So Fridays are days off, and we're so excited to be able to participate.
We've been following you for a year.
My
Okay.
husband and I have been following you for a year. We're platinum members.
Silently
And is that MJ?
I am MJ, yes.
You're
Yeah.
MJ and Sean.
I'm
okay.
MJ. My husband is Sean.
No, I don't know
Okay.
anyone. So
My question.
we have silently been following you for a year.
Okay, they can hear
Okay,
you.
well, thank you. Thank you.
And
You're welcome.
love you so much.
We love you
LUV.
very, very
You're
much.
great, Kerry. You're amazing. And I thank you for I listen to you every day. I drive an hour each way.
Get in the camera. Don't be camera shy.
No,
No,
I'm
he's
not.
tell-
camera shy.
MJ,
He's
tell
camera
Sean
shy.
we
So,
want on the
Kerry,
camera.
seriously,
You guys need-
I
You guys
listen
need to stop it. We'll never be able to live with Kerry if you keep doing this.
There, look, that's basil.
Basil. Oh, wow, good.
Basil, I'm making pizza.
My husband listens to you every day, an hour to go to work, and an
Every
hour
day.
every day, every
Thank
day.
you.
For the last year.
For the
and
last
I,
year.
I think you're great. And and
And
thank
we
you so
love
much
you.
for what you bring to the table. You're amazing.
So my question is
thank
in
you, Kerry.
regards of to
You're welcome.
Bitcoin and Nvidia, and in regards to Bitcoin, if there you see that because of the demand and because that everybody's saying how Bitcoin is like literally the demand is so high and the supply is very low, that if the government will actually start, even though there are ETFs right now, but actually start to not only regulate it but tax.
Well, it's
can't.
going to be taxed when you
You
sell
can or
it
you
as a
can't.
capital gain, just like anything else, whether it's whatever store of value. If your house, you sell your house, you're going to be taxed on it up until a limit. So I guess I'm like you, MJ. I feared that the government would come in and say, this is a threat to our currency, that you're going to hide assets. But it's like Michael said in the interview I watched, if you own a Picasso and you want to go buy a pizza with it, you can't.
No.
You can't break off a corner of the Picasso and pay for a pizza. You've got to turn it into cash. And as you turn it into cash, you're going to pay a capital gain and the government's going to tax you on it.
As long as a Roth IRA. Because I have ETF Bitcoins in the Roth IRA.
Oh, great for you. Because there you won't pay any capital gains.
Correct.
That's the
I'm
government's mistake.
Yes. However, if I want to have the whole Bitcoin, not the ETF, I cannot buy a Bitcoin without putting it in a Roth IRA. I have to go into like Gemini or
Right.
Voyager, but Gemini or cold storage,
Coinbase.
and that's when you get taxed. But do you get taxed? My concern is that the government will see, okay, a lot of people are getting smart. They see the value of Bitcoin. They see a lot of people are getting millions potentially. And hey, we need a piece of that. We
They've
need to
done
tax.
that already. There's no beating the tax man. You gotta pay your taxes.
You got to pay your tax. Okay.
There's no beating
But
them.
if your gains are big enough, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. And my other question is about NVIDIA, because I know that the buy price right now for NVIDIA on your cheat sheet is about 600,
Mhm.
So my question is, if it goes down to, let's say, 700, close to that, and based on the projections of the future, do I wait to go down to 600, or do I say, okay, it's down to 7 or it's down to 8? Would you see it going?
I'm with you, MJ. I'm not in NVIDIA, but I want to be. But I'm not going to try to catch a falling knife. So I'll use Mark's teachings to me and I'll see where it's at relative to the MACD and where it's relative to relative strength. And I guess my feeling on it, MJ, is if it's 700 or 600 and it's actually going to go to 2,000, okay, I miss out on $100. I'm okay with that. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
You know, let's don't get greedy. We know
But
and again, I know the only way NVIDIA is not going to reach 2,000 is if somebody else comes out with a better chip.
Okay, Intel. I saw a video on
No,
no.
won't be Intel. Won't-
Okay.
Intel's play is, and again, Intel, I don't think shows the capability to design a chip. I'm in Intel for the foundries. I'm in Intel because, and I will buy more Intel because our government is dependent upon it. We cannot allow all our advanced semiconductors to be made in Taiwan and South Korea. They have to be made in the United States. And as
Exactly.
someone pointed out, I guess it was last week, well, yeah, we can't compete though with their labor costs. And I think maybe it was Bob that pointed out, there is no labor. It's all robots.
it's
You know,
Tim.
Yes.
There'll be a few very intelligent guys standing around telling the robots what to do. So Intel, I believe, is a undervalued stock right now. And each day it goes lower, and there is opportunity there. It may be 2 years off, but this is, I think their CEO is not well respected, but I think our government has to be behind them. Okay. In fact, was his name Phil, Nita, or Trent?
Tim.
Were you here last week? MJ, were you here last week?
No, today is our first day.
We had a gentleman on last week who made his living working in the semiconductor business. And he called on Apple and Microsoft and all the Silicon Valley. And he made the comment also that our national security is dependent upon Intel. She's drinking wine.
No. No.
Tell him.
No, it's actually champagne. It's our day off.
Tell
So.
him.
Oh, it's champagne. It's not wine. Excuse me.
The one. Right.
Baby, you have a voice.
What time is it in Hawaii?
Hey,
It is around probably right
Oh,
now. It's probably around
shoot.
11 a.m.
shoot, hey,
Oh my,
Karen, can you
this is
see me
my
right
kind of
now?
lady.
That's my husband.
Can you see me right now? And from Hawaii. I love LUV. Love you guys. I listen to you every day.
All right.
And Kerry, thank you so much. Think the world of you.
You're blowing
so
his
smart.
ego up so big now. I got to deal with this
No,
shit.
Until I tell Nita
I
about
can't
it.
take it anymore.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna have to go
God.
get a beer.
Oh,
And
my poor
everyone
mother.
that told
Man,
my wife to listen to
Getting
this
deep
channel.
in this room.
We're Hawaii, man. So love and appreciate you, and it's been so great. And I want to do everything I can to help us move forward to the next level. And I thank you for
Are you at the platinum
everything you
level?
bring to the table.
Yes, we are.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
platinum.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Then I would ask you, recruit more people. Help
Oh,
us
I
recruit
have
more
been
people.
I've been telling my team, I run a timeshare sales room.
Okay.
I run a
Share
sales
sales room. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been doing it for
Over in a of
20
course he
years,
does.
24 years. I run a sales floor, and everybody asks me for advice. I'm like, listen to Kerry. He's like
He does. He really does.
He's like my surrogate father,
Thank
Oh,
you.
get in line.
and I respect you so much, and I thank you so much, and I listen to
Right,
you
you got a new brother.
There you
You
go.
want a puppy?
every
Trent's got a new brother.
Yep, Sean Grickmeyer.
That's funny.
What's that? What did you
Sean
say?
Grickmeyer.
Hey, MJ, that would make you Mrs. Grickmeyer.
Yes.
I think we want to come to Hawaii and party with those dudes.
Yeah, hey, now
Hey,
we have a
we're-
place.
we're
It's in
building-
Hawaii.
And he runs a timeshare. He can find us a place
That's a
to
pool right
stay.
there.
We're
We're
building a
building
pool in our
right there.
backyard. Let's head over the ocean. So come on over. Let's all go. Let's all go in.
So last question.
You sure that was basil you were showing us before?
That was basil, yeah.
but Hawaiian basil.
No, it was basil. Actually, it was
was
Hawaiian basil. Yeah.
Jump on in.
You have a question about AHGR?
No, I have no questions. You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate being part of your community. Thank you for allowing me to be in, and it's cool.
And we will
Okay.
be every Friday.
Thank you.
Okay,
We
good.
drive everybody crazy.
The only reason I haven't been here thus far is because my days off have been changed.
Yes. And we wanted to be so long. But thank God our days off got changed and Fridays is one of our days off. So now we
Okay,
can
good.
participate.
Let me introduce you to a good friend of mine. That's Brian. Brian has actually come and visited me several times. We were going to have dinner. He was going to come and stay in my house just this last week, but diarrhea got in the way.
Not me.
That's not-
Yeah, right. Like I said, the filter's gone.
He froze up.
So what's happening, Brian?
Tell us what's happening.
It's right.
Hey, hello, greetings, Hawaiians. Aloha.
Hi.
Brian lives in Nashville.
Live in Nashville, yes. Nashville, Tennessee. There was
Hey,
a couple,
Brian, nice to meet you, brother.
yeah, nice to meet you all as well.
Yeah,
And
pleasure.
I enjoy, I'll enjoy meeting you all more on the call.
And when we all go to Hawaii.
That's right.
I was saying to Nita, where can Trent, Mark, and I get together and have our executive meeting? And I think we've answered the question.
Yes. I agree.
What
Or
you got,
Shaka.
Mark
There
or
we go.
Brian?
Shaka.
We-
Shaka.
You know, it would be an honor to have you guys come visit us.
Oh my God, of course.
It would be such an honor.
We'll make that happen.
Can we do it in the winter?
It-
Yeah, for sure. Come.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
It's the best time. And we got
Alright.
4 rescue dogs. So you see one of them right here.
Yeah,
Samson.
we have 4.
All right, Brian.
Okay.
Love you
Brian.
guys. Love you guys.
All right,
Thank
take care.
you. Thank you for everything you do.
So
Appreciate
I have
everything
a-
you do. Especially Kerry.
Yeah.
Kerry.
Yes.
Really appreciate you, sir.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
And really,
No, we
I
really love you.
so much look up to you more than I can say right now, more than you know. I look up to you so much and I hang on to every word that you say.
Huh.
You are just so smart and
Huh.
You're very smart. Yes.
I appreciate everything that you do. And
Okay, let's give the floor to Brian.
you're cool.
Okay.
You're
Yes,
cool, Kerry.
Brian. Okay.
All
All
right.
right, I'm out. Peace.
So I guess there's a
Nice.
couple questions, and I also want you all to look at a chart as well. I know y'all mentioned Bitcoin. There was and of course you all just talked about some of the fears of Bitcoin. I remember I guess it might have been last week, Trent, on one of your videos talking about Bitcoin. And you kind of broke down the amount of Bitcoin that's out there. And you also talked about how there's a certain amount of Bitcoin that was lost or no one knows where it is. And for me, that lies one of the problems as far as the fear of buying Bitcoin and the fact that there's no security parameters like it would be at a bank with FDIC covering a certain amount of money in a bank. So I wanted you to kind of address that part of it and maybe how you can kind of make us more at ease wanting to buy Bitcoin kind of based on that.
Yeah, so back in the day, you would buy Bitcoin and you would hold it in a cold storage wallet or a hard drive, and you have certain keys for each Bitcoin or each share that you own. And if you lose your keys, you lose your Bitcoin. If you lose your hard drive, you lose your Bitcoin. And as Mark pointed out, there's about 7.8 million or so that have been lost that is known about. If that is, for instance, I have Coinbase, which is probably one of the more tightly interactive, one of the exchanges that's more interactive with the US government. I know some of their counsel has come from the government. And so from a standpoint of if there's a brokerage firm out there that's or an exchange that is more government friendly, it's probably Coinbase, which is a double-edged sword, if you ask me. But you can hold it there, and it's not. I don't believe it's FDIC insured or anything of that sort. If that is your concern of losing, the ETF route is now approved is probably more because they custody it. So in this case, BlackRock with the IBIT ETF, they custody it, they have it, but you don't have that ability to actually take possession of it within an ETF. Sort of like,
own it.
You don't own it.
You don't
just
own it,
own
you just rent it.
You own the wrapper of it, basically.
Right.
So if that is a concern to, from that standpoint, I know there is that level of risk that if you offload it to a cold storage wallet, the risk is that you lose it. The risk is your house burns down and melts your hard drive or the wallet that it's on. Somebody breaks in your house and steals it. Yes, that is a variable that is very risky. And that's where I look at it and I go, if you want to participate in the growth of Bitcoin and the value growth of it, maybe the ETF is the better route, because it's in your brokerage account. It's got that level of insurance element that the government provides. But in that case, you pay a fractional cost to own it through an ETF. But if you're really super responsible and you feel comfortable with holding it offline in a cold storage wallet, you have a safe and you have a process of protecting it and protecting the your keys to the coin, then holding actual Bitcoin may be the better route for you. Like anything, there's risk. If I own NVIDIA stock and it comes out they've been cooking their books, I mean, that stock's zero pretty quick. So there's that risk as well. It's just, there's risk in every asset investment you have. If you own a home, it's going to burn down. Your insurance company isn't going to pay out. So I guess I look at it and I go, if I'm going to play the game, if I'm going to buy into this concept of store of value, limited supply, Bitcoin is that answer. What fits best for me? I own both the IBIT ETF, but I also own Bitcoin and I also mine Bitcoin. So I'm sort of in all these different perspectives, and I understand I lost a miner last month. It burnt out, so I'm now down to 5. That was, I got my money out of it, yet that was the risk of it. So I guess these are great questions about risk, and unfortunately I've only heard the risk question about Bitcoin rather than what's the risk of owning SMCI. Nobody asked that question. So I think these are great questions to ask across the board. But if you're interested in this, and I would say instead of trying to run, learn to crawl first, and maybe the ETF is a great start, and allocate and think of it as a commodity, because it is a rare asset. And like corn or wheat or soybeans or silver or copper, this is an asset that is a commodity, and income. If you do run an asset allocation, commodities probably shouldn't exceed more than 6% of your overall portfolio allocation. So in this case, if you're interested in doing this, dollar cost average into it, especially like today when IBIT came down, you dollar cost average it and build a position in it like any professional money manager would do, and you buy into it. If you're an extremist and you want to hold 100% of it, maybe you should advance your knowledge and spend 100 hours learning about it and go from there. But I don't know if that helps, Brian, but there's risk in everything we've talked about ever since I jumped on this call, with Kerry. And I think the first step, if you are getting introduced to this, not advice or recommendation, but the ETF is a great way to enter the game. And I would say start there and build knowledge.
There's another thing you could do. You could just keep it at Coinbase too.
Yeah.
They store it for, and they even have wallets at Coinbase that you can store your Bitcoin there. So it is yours. It's like storing it at Fidelity. Your stocks you never see your stocks. Fidelity has them somewhere in digital. So you can do that too. But I'd have to go back when you talk about risk. What's the risk that when you put your money in a bank that you go down there and the bank's not open, or they only give you $1,000 at a time, and you have $100,000 in your bank, or you ask for 10,000, they say come back in 3 weeks, we'll get it for you. What about if you're at Silicon Valley Bank, you go there and the door's shut, so there's risk even in fiat currency, and the biggest risk in fiat currency is the devaluation of your money.
Yeah, I think that's something, especially recently with, Jamie Dimon, you wonder what brought this market down today. And, when Jamie Dimon comes out and guides a lower for the coming year, that's a risk. And if for some reason my bank down the street has liquidity issues and I can't get my money out, that's a level risk. The counterpoint to that is with Bitcoin, you can take that off the exchange and put that in a wallet. So you have possession of it. You own it. Government can't get it. They can't get into it. They don't have the keys to it. There's that level of protection with Bitcoin. If you own it outright and you put it on take it off an exchange, put it in cold storage, that's a risk that you eliminate versus owning a fiat currency or owning a stocks and bonds. I mean, you think about it. I know Kerry had this experience years ago. He walked into the bank about getting his money and doing something or moving money across borders or something. He had an employee who worked overseas, and they basically said in so many words, this is not your money. It's ours. We're just lending it back. When we give it to you, it's yours. But the money in my checking account right now, they could lock me out of it. And to me, that's a bigger risk.
That's
than
in
it
that
is.
agreement that you sign when you open an account. You just don't read it.
Yeah. No. And that's I think one of the reasons the Bitcoin was created in the concept behind the 9-page paper. I thought it was 25, but it's 9, is that this is a asset that you can take possession of and hold and control. And nobody knows you have it. Nobody knows where you have it. And I think that's the concept behind it, is that it gives you ultimate power over that asset versus if I have my money in my bank or I have my brokerage money at my TD Ameritrade, they can take possession of it and ownership of it and take it away from me. And
What else did you have, Brian?
Say it again.
What other questions did you have? I think you got a lot of answer.
Yeah, I did. Let me just to follow up on that. I don't know if you all remember, maybe the beginning of last year, Kerry did a video about Bitcoin possibly going to 100,000. I don't know if y'all remember that or not. This was
Harry did that?
year. Yeah.
That was before he was
Do you
a
remember
tin
that,
hat
Kerry?
wearer?
No, I don't.
You don't remember that? Okay. But anyway, I think I sent you a message to the effect of MicroStrategy kind of being a better option, just because of the there's some level of stability with the business. So does MicroStrategy, knowing that they invest a lot in Bitcoin, and you can view their business operations, does that factor in to the equation of someone wanting to get into Bitcoin, in your opinion?
I think
As I
it's
said,
one.
I bought 10 shares of MicroStrategies today.
Right.
And my motive, which amounted to $15,000 or just a little under. I have a Coinbase account. I could have put that in Bitcoin, but were you here when I showed the chart of,
No, was it?
can I, Trent?
Yeah, just hold on. Okay, go ahead.
This is always a challenge for me. There it is. Okay. This, what I'm showing you here, this is, let me take it out 5 years. The heavy yellow line is Bitcoin. This is MicroStrategies. And so you can see Bitcoin outperformed it through here. And then if I take it down to 1 year, this is Bitcoin, that's MicroStrategies. Why the difference? Because what he did was he took all his money out of MicroStrategies and invested it in Bitcoin, and we moved like this. But now what he did was he took all the equity out of MicroStrategies by borrowing money. And what he explained in this interview, and was almost over my head, he basically said, I borrowed money at 1%. How did he borrow money at 1%? He basically told them, I'll borrow the money from you at 1%, and in whatever duration, at the end of that duration, you will have the option of being paid the money plus 1% or get stock in my company. And
It's
you
a
can see
convertible
what
bond.
happened. Because he leveraged up, something I tell people do not do. He borrowed money to buy more Bitcoin, and that's what happened to the stock. Now, Bob shared with us that he'll let that get up around 1,700, and then he'll sell his shares of the stock and take the profits and buy Bitcoin for himself. So we got to be aware of that. And Bob says he openly tells people he'll do that, if you know that. So what I looked at this, Brian, and said, I could buy Bitcoin and mortgage my house and take that money and buy Bitcoin and do the same thing he's doing. But if I did that and Bitcoin dropped, I'd lose my house and needed throw me out. Well, we'd both be out at that point. So I said, no, I'll transfer the risk to him and I'll buy MicroStrategies. Okay. And
Yeah, I'm on MicroStrategy.
my exposure then is limited to being aware of what's happening here and being aware of he has a limit. And as I understand it from what Bob tells us, it's around 1,700, and today it closed at 1,479. Okay. And I think, again, if we work together on this, and because again, this is brand new to me. I didn't have a clue who MicroStrategies was this time last night. Okay. But I jumped in with $15,000 about an hour ago.
Yeah, I've had MicroStrategy in the past, and
Why haven't you told me about it?
well, I had texted you about it one time, but
Okay.
but I bought it when kind of like what you were saying, how the chart showed that it was going trending higher than Bitcoin, and that was when I jumped in. I
Okay.
tried to get it back again somewhere around 650, and then it just shot off like like a light, and I didn't go back in. But yeah, that's why I felt like a MicroStrategy would kind of absorb some of that security part of it, of kind of what I was talking about before. But thank you for showing me that again. And I apologize for not being at the very
Brian.
beginning.
Okay, go ahead.
The other one is with the inflation, as you mentioned, being the way that it is. Typically, the energy stocks are a little more defensive. If you all agree with that or not, I don't know. And with Sam Altman saying that more energy is needed in AI, is there any research done on some of these energy plays?
Here's my issue. I only have about 6 hours a day I want to dedicate to this. I don't have time to look at energy. I don't have time to look at anything other than AI and semiconductors. And now I've fallen into this. And that's, I guess that's my hope for this channel. If we can get it up to where we can financially support other people coming in and saying, I want to be the guru in this area. And I want to either provide the technical support or the financial support, or not financial, but the research element of it, or I'd like to be the presenter. I'd like to be the guy who gets up every day or 3 days a week and makes a video. And I'll share with you, that's not where the money is in this game. The game is in this community. The money is in this community. The money is getting a group of people who come together and say, $60 a month, that's a bargain for what I'm getting. And you get Brian telling you something about something, and Eric Loud in his hat and his vape smoking, telling us something about it, or Bob up in upstate New York. What I envision is people coming out of this tribe who say, I want another career. I want an opportunity to go learn and become the best at what I choose to do. And Kerry's got a $7.2 million company that can pay me. Because Brian, once we get to 100,000 and we got 700 million coming in, and we build these apps, those people who come who aren't one of the 10,000, they aren't going to get in for $60. They're going to pay 250. And that next 10,000 will make us 250 million or whatever it is. It's the power of the community. I'm just the dreamer.
I think so. I was up in Birmingham this week with Kerry and Nita, and one thing we talked about was utilizing the excitement that you all have and your skill sets in creating some sort of process to give you all the ability to present ideas and research. I know a handful of you have reached out to Kerry about uh, being able to do some of the research that he's doing. You know, you just mentioned energy. That's the one area that everybody's overlooking when it comes to AI. You're going to need more energy, and windmills and solar panels ain't going to cut it. So fossil fuels and that kind of thing, that's going to fuel this. Um, you know, those kind of things, and what companies that are addressing that. We're a limited, you know, group of people who can, you know, between the three, you know, Kerry, Mark, and I, we don't have the time in the day to do that. And so he and I spoke about that, and I said to him, let's figure out over the next week or so a process that can be systematized across the board about research. So, Brian, let's say you are into fossil fuels and you see the AI movement, and you're like, okay, I love getting into the nitty gritty about what companies are providing energy to data centers, that kind of thing. And we have to do is put together a format for which it's easy to follow that can be done across all different sectors and all types of things. So he and I definitely we talked about this earlier this week, because there is so much more. Like, for instance, what is one of the materials that semiconductors and data centers and all these other related to AI that they have to have, and that's copper. You have to have copper to run these data centers. You have to have copper to make these products and things. And so understanding the metals market or the copper market or what have you, and understanding when the best time to own copper, or when we're going to see a movement in copper, or those kind of things. Those are the kind of things that, you know, eventually we want to see this come together. The first step is we need to create a format for which you can take and fill through, you know, put the content that is needed to come to this, and then be able to be presented to the community. So that was definitely one thing that Kerry and I spoke about. It's just, I'm a big, like, a process driven kind of thing. I'm, you know, because when data starts coming in and all this stuff comes in, it can come in 62 different ways, and that is hard to work through. And so that's one thing that I know Kerry and I spoke about this week, and that this coming week we want to put together some sort of format that enables you all to submit ideas and then create a platform for which you can present them and get credit for it, to be honest with you. So
I'm all for that.
yeah.
Uh,
So plus it's fun. So
Yeah.
it
All
creates
right, and then the last thing is I wanted you all to look at a chart on Root, ROOT.
all right.
That's a stock. It's an insurance company that has. It's really a technology company that has their basis is insurance. It shot up like 400% over the last year. So, I want y'all to take a look at it.
All right.
Get your thoughts on it.
My computer is so slow recently. All right. This it? Yeah. Root Inc.
Brian, is this the one? Is that a daily chart? No, that's weekly.
No, that's daily. So it took off in February
Oh, I
22nd.
think there's a W up there.
Yeah, but that's a weekly.
Okay.
That's a daily.
What is this, the insurance company that something bad news came out this week on?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
Mark, I'll let you chime in here if you want to jump on us, or I can. Is Mark here?
Root Insurance.
There we go. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. If something happened back, I don't know anything about this company, but it was trading at $8, $9. And now it's up to, you know, 60, 67, 66. So I don't know much about it, but I do know that just looking at it right out of the gate, for me, the volume is pretty low. I like higher volumes, and I mean, there's a couple days it's over 1 million, but there's a lot of them too that are smaller days. So I don't know anything about it. The chart is interesting. You know, I'm looking at the chart. The MACD is rolled over. The stochastic has rolled over. You know, as far as swing trading, it wouldn't be something I would do right now. It's below the 9. It went up and touched on the resistance level for 4 days in a row. Now it's coming back down. So at this point, I wouldn't be interested as a swing trader in it.
Here's what this is why I was aware of it. Root Insurance executive sentenced for embezzling $10 million from Columbus-based company. That's what caused that drop. That was well, that was
Yesterday?
3 weeks ago.
Well, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They had
But
a
I knew I had
sizable.
heard the name.
So back on the 22nd, their earnings surprise was up 41.89%. Their revenue surprise was up 46.99%. So that gives you some insight there. So that's a jump.
Yeah.
What kind of insurance is it?
Looks to me like automobile.
Well, then that would explain what I think Bob said something about car insurance rates went up like 25-50% recently over the last couple of years or last year or something like that. So that may be it, but I don't know what happened yesterday. It doesn't give me any news stories. I guess what I'm looking at I mean, that's a big move time. You've come down to the 20, which is the yellow line. You know, your MACD's negative, your RSI's, I mean, it's at 58, but it's crossed over. The slow stochastic is slowed, as Mark has pointed out. I would just watch it, but it seems like this is a very news-driven element, so that's something you cannot predict. They could come out and, you know, it could be positive or negative. So I would just watch it and see if it does make a break back over the 9, which is that white line there. That's what I would consider. And then I would just find out more about the fundamentals of the business and what is it all about and why did they have such a big move and why did they surprise earnings by 40 some odd percent? You know, those kind of things. You know, how did they change their business that fast?
Well, look how flat it was until March
Yeah.
or February 21st. It was trading at 867, you know, and then, you know,
Wait
here
a
a couple
second.
months later, we're
Wait
at
a second.
$66.
Wow. What kind of span was that?
21. So it
Okay.
started trading in 21.
This is
It's
probably one of
October of
these
20.
online insurance. It looks like it's all auto insurance. And this is probably one of these online auto. What was the other? Lemonade came out and that was all rental insurance.
No, I don't know if you're referring to me, to the comments that I made. My comments were addressed to hurricane areas of the Southeast. And I just gave you an illustration on a cousin's house down in Naples, Florida, where $750,000 house, and he was paying like $1,500. And when Hurricane, was it Charles? I can't remember the exact name, that came along the West Coast, did a lot of damage, and he had his premiums go up to $7,500. And right now, there's a lot of people leaving Florida, mainly because of insurance. If you've got a mortgage on a place, you've got to have insurance. If you don't have a mortgage on a place, you don't have to have insurance. You take the risk.
Yeah.
That's my homeowner's insurance renews in July, and since the building cost has fallen, I'm going to readjust my deductible because I'm paying right around $7,000 to rebuild my house. And prior to that, it was about 5,000. So it jumped in 1 year, what, 50%? So I think that's definitely why you would leave Florida.
Oh, can I just say one other thing? Two
Yeah.
other examples, and this goes back to automobiles as far as accidents go. On my Hyundai, I was backing it out of the garage and I knocked the antenna off on top, It's an SUV. It's a Santa Fe. When I took it to an auto body shop, I finally ended up, I thought I could fix it myself, but I couldn't. Just to replace an antenna. Plus, I had also put a dent in the roof as a result of hitting this this antenna that was on top, a painted antenna. Cost $1,800. Then I have a friend that lives down in has a home down on the east coast of Florida. And when he was going down at the end of December, he had a guy rear-end him, I think, in North Carolina. And he's got like a 2-year Volvo station wagon. He thought it would be maybe $4,000 or $5,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. By the time he was done, it was close to 10,000. It was just hitting the guy's tailgate. So all I'm
That's
saying
highway
is
robbery.
part costs have gone through the roof, and labor costs too.
Yeah, what was it? I was listening to an interview with Jim Bianco this week. He's like a macro guy, and he was talking about supply of goods because of this whole Israel Hamas thing is forcing these container ships to go around Africa versus what they used to do. And in the past, they would make container ship would make like 6 round trips from, a year. Now they're making 4. And so that amount of supply is starting to shrink. So in the auto industry, auto parts and stuff, that element is shrinking, which is going to eventually cause prices to go up. And if you lower Fed funds rates and you lower rates 3 times or 7 times, you're going to cause massive inflation because now money's cheap again, but the supply element is not there. And all of a sudden, instead of paying 10,000 to fix your bumper, it's 20,000. So it's really it's interesting, it's really predicament, to be honest with you. So, but I think in Florida, I think the insurance companies are taking advantage in a lot of ways, but Florida in particular has been hit with a number of hurricanes over the last, we had one hit here about 5 or 6 years ago, Hurricane Michael, and there are still blue tarps on the roofs of houses. And that was 5 years ago. There's a lot of people who didn't get insurance money because they didn't have flood insurance, I think it is, because a lot of insurance policies don't include that. So, but they're making a mint.
Hey, by the way, the other thing is earthquake insurance. We just had a case in eastern New York where there was an earthquake, and I forget where it was on the Richter scale, but there was some damage that was done, and a lot of people do not have earthquake insurance in their home policies.
No, but why would you, right?
No, I'll tell you something, Trent. I think it was about 10 years ago. I took it out.
Did you?
Because we have seen some cracking in our ceilings and that. The earth is moving, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided not to take a risk.
Smart. That's like up near Bryan in Tennessee. There's tectonic plates up in that area, and you guys have had
East Tennessee.
Yeah, you've had 1 or 2 over the last 20, 30 years.
Well, and look in Florida, you got the potholes. You know what? Not potholes. You know what I'm talking about? Sinking holes. Yeah. On potholes in the north, sinkholes in Florida.
Right.
We got
the same size.
We got a question in the chat. Hang, is it? Hang, are you comfortable coming on or at least unmuting yourself? Hang. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang is asking, he's new to investing. He's got some money he wants to deploy and he wants to know where to start. We've all been there, Hang. and it's do you do you have a brokerage account?
I do.
Okay, so that's your first, and are you comfortable using it?
Somewhat, I think.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you know what a stop loss order is?
Yes, never done one before.
Okay. And you know what a limit order is?
Yes.
Okay. And so what I think you're asking is, what should you invest in at this time?
Yes, pretty much basically, because I watch a lot of your videos and you talk about your bus 12 and bus 13
Right.
stocks. That got me interested. I just didn't know how should I break down the percentage. Should I do an even percentage to each of those bus 12, 13 stocks? And also I was interested in learning how to swing trade too. And so should I set a certain percentage aside for that too? So I just didn't know how to go about getting started and what should I do to allocate my money.
Okay. I'll start by asking Mark, what percentage of his portfolio would you say he should put aside for swing trading? And this is not financial advice.
I got you.
Yeah, put me on the spot. That's a personal issue on however you want to do it. I can't tell people. I don't know what he has. I don't know what his financial situation is. I don't know, a lot of things about Hang. So, I can't really tell him what I
So-
would do.
What would
So
you
can
say
I get,
amount you need to swing trade, would you think?
Well, we try to start people at just paper trading. So zero would be the amount of actual cash you would need, because then you learn how the process goes.
Okay.
And then, you know, we've got members of I think, of swing trading on the call here, maybe that they can chime in a little bit on how they've done it. I'm not one for telling people what to do. I have a process, and we train on the process, and I allow them to make their own decisions, because that's all I can do. But on typical, if I try to do 100 shares is normally what I try to do. Our paper trade portfolio does 100 shares. So if a stock is $33, that's $3,300 on a swing trade. Or you can do 50 shares, you can do 10 shares to learn how to do it. The percentage that you make or lose is the same. It's 2% loss or 7% gain. It's just on a different amount of shares.
I
Gotcha.
think one of the things, so I think in like a model portfolio, you're a portfolio manager. That's what we're training people to be eventually, become essentially as a portfolio manager. And a portfolio manager has core holdings, and those are core holdings that they hold for a long period of time, but they have a process to manage that. So let's say that's 50%. Okay. So that's your core holdings, and maybe that's broken up between ETFs or mutual funds, or in some cases, solid stocks for the long run, like Berkshire or something, not just a hypothetical. And then maybe from there, of that, the next 50%, 10%, you want to add alpha. And that means you want to add over and above returns than your benchmark. And let's say your benchmark is the S&P 500. And historically, the S&P 500 has returned 12%. So you want to add more to it, more to your portfolio. So that would be alpha. And that's where you could use like the bus 12 and bus 13 stocks and position, say, another 20%, or 40% of your assets in those alpha opportunities. Now, these may be, in the case of like Palantir, you wouldn't want to own it today, most likely, because it's below the 9 to 20, and it's breaking towards the 50. So you wouldn't want to own it, but you may want to allocate a portion of that in the future, and your max allocation in that would be like 6% of that 20%. So you would just add in increments of, say, 1% until you're at a full allocation. I'm actually going to create a whole page for this and explain this in the future. But then when it comes to more like the swing trading, maybe it's a 10%. So your portfolio now looks like a core holding of 50% of the overall investments. And let's say you have $10,000. So you have 5,000 in your core holding, diversified amongst different asset classes that are performing on an uptrend basis. Another 20%, so 2,000 of it, or 4,000 is going to alpha generation. These are intermediate to long-term holdings. So like, for instance, If Amazon pulls back 10, 20%, you could allocate a portion there. And so that's your alpha. That's where you get that oomph, that nitro, that oxide that you put in your engine when you want to go really fast for a short period of time. And then 10% could be allocated towards the swing trading methodology. And that's more of a time frame of a day, a week, maybe 2 weeks kind of thing. And that way you have that sort of overall, now you're a portfolio manager. Now you're managing, like a hedge fund would. They got a core, a foundation of the house, and then from there you got the first and second floor, and then they got the attic, and that's your swing trade. And that's how I would think about investing. Now, if you just want to trade and swing trade, then, make sure you have what you are willing to lose and follow the swing trading methodology that Mark builds. But as you build wealth, you're building a house, and that house has to have a solid foundation, solid concrete. And those are asset classes or assets that are in for the long term. But if they break your process, you get out of them, as we talked about on the swing trading call earlier today. But that's how I think about investing. It's not, I'm going to balls to the wall, put everything into AE or AEHR. What is it? The one you love. I'm not going to put 100% of my assets in that. That's just reckless. That isn't what you do. Right. So that's how I would look upon it. And think of it in this way. Currency, that's about no more than 12% of your overall portfolio. Fixed income in each position. Fixed income, so bonds, that's no more than, say, 10% in a hypothetical, let's say TLT, which I would not touch TLT today, not advice or recommendation. You get down to equities in an individual position, 6%. That's your max position in AEHR. That's your max position in Microsoft or so on. Because what you don't want to happen is that you own 50%
too much of any one thing,
and they blow up. I remember when Bell South, if you all remember Bell South, I remember when these guys would come into our office and say, yeah, I have 100% of my 401k in Bell South. And I'm 3 years away from retirement. And 12 months later, Bell South went upside down and their stock was worth zero. No more retirement. They're working the rest of their lives. That's what you don't want to do. You never want to blow yourself up. So we talk about Bitcoin. That's a commodity. That's 4 to 6% of your overall allocation, if you're looking at it from that perspective. Unless you're a Michael Saylor who has the ability to lever out the wazoo. But that's how I would look at it. That's one thing Kerry and I talked about. How do we tie all these together? And that's one thing I'm working on as well, is here's how to look at this whole thing and how to rebalance and allocate.
Hang, how old are you?
52.
Okay. You
That makes a
married?
difference.
I'm
It
sorry.
makes a big
Are you
difference.
married, single?
Single.
Okay. And so what is your main objective? Retirement?
Yes, retirement, maybe about 10 years.
Okay. Do you have a Roth IRA?
I do.
Okay. That's where you want to put $6,000 every year.
Okay.
If you can. And again, I would ask you, you recognize the world is changing and it's changing rapidly. Okay.
Sure.
With that in mind, who do you believe is going to take us into this change? Do you, like me, believe it's going to be Microsoft, Google, Apple, Meta, and who am I missing? Maybe NVIDIA, the Magnificent 6, 7, whatever it is. If you believe that, then you want that as part of your core portfolio. Because again, and why I believe that is they got the money, they've got the talent. What is it? I just said that Apple has $73 billion sitting in the bank right now. They can buy anything they want. So I want to own Apple. Apple right now is depressed. It's probably below the 200-day moving average, but I don't believe it'll be there much longer. That's my opinion. Mark might disagree with me. Never buy anything under the 200-day unless you believe that it is going to be a part of our future And I look at that and say, that's a buying opportunity. So, but that's my opinion. Then from there, I would say, who are going to be the other players? Who is going to initiate artificial intelligence the best of anybody in the game? I would believe that's going to be Microsoft. So I want to look for an opportunity to buy Microsoft if it dips, if it goes down. But I don't want to be sitting around on my hands and saying, oh, I wish I had bought Microsoft back in 2024 because now it's gone up. So you've got to take some risk. You've got to make some informed decisions and start building your portfolio on those companies that are going to be leaders in the next 10 years. I do not suggest at this point you buy AEHR. I believe it's going to give me an 800% return over the next 2 years, but I got the money to lose. I'm already retired, and I've got a business that can provide me income if, in fact, everything goes away. You've got to be more conservative, and you've got to be more cautious. But then I would also say, as I put up this added addition to the cheat sheet, look at who is. Do you subscribe to anybody like Seeking Alpha or anything like that?
No, I do not.
Okay. You've got to put into your mind what, and think this through. What makes a company stock go up? I think it's pretty simple. They make profits, and they're making more profits each year. Now, there's only 3 ways companies can make more profits each year. And the first one is to expand their TAM. That's their total addressable market. The best example I have ever seen of that was Facebook. Facebook owned the United States. And Mark Zuckerberg went and gave access to cheap internet in India and said, if you will sign up for Facebook, I'll give you this cheap internet. Today, there's more people on Facebook from India than there is from the United States. He expanded his TAM. Then you have companies like Netflix. They increased the price of their product. It used to be you could get Netflix for $9.99. You now pay $15.99. So they raised their price. They've got, I think it's 9 million subscribers. That's a company, and you learn, you watch them and you say, these people know what they're doing. The only other way then to increase your earnings is to increase your price of your, it's the TAM, increase the price, and reduce your expenses. Mark Zuckerberg did that as well. He laid off 15% of his staff back in 2020 or thereabouts. Everybody punished him for it. The stock dropped 40%, and it's now right back. Find a good manager. Find people who understand their business. Go and listen to videos by Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. This guy is smart. He founded his company in 1983. This is a dude who was flipping hamburgers at Denny's. And he explained that he was an engineer, and he put together some investors, and he built that company from the ground up. Know who you're investing in. Get in sign up for, or go to the websites of the companies that you want to invest in and find their earnings or their earnings report that they broadcast, and find an hour in a day and say, I'm going to go learn who Jensen Huang is. And I'm going to listen to his earnings call. And I'm going to pick up on his personality. And I'm going to determine if he's a good person and if he's got my best interest in him. And if you'll put that kind of work into it, you'll become a successful investor, because I'm going to share something with you. There's less than 5% of the people who invest who will do that. They just want to come on YouTube and have some talking head, or go on to CNBC and let Jim Cramer tell them what to do. That's what they want. They will not put any work into it. Then I would say, do you like to read?
I do.
Read a nonfiction book every month to educate yourself. Start with this one. Nothing But Net. It's a retired asset manager, and he's the guy who taught me there's only two numbers you need to be aware of, and that's revenue growth and earnings per share growth. And if you will learn that and study it, and then get into the depth and listen to the earnings calls, you've beat 95% of the people in the market, right? Just by doing that. And then from that point, then choose your area of specialty, what you enjoy learning about. And then you'll pick up the books about that. And you'll learn. And you'll, again, we all start here. We're all investors. And then we just bring the funnel down to where I'm the smartest guy in the room. And I go to Las Vegas, and I'm the smartest guy at the poker table. And I beat the shit out of them because I've studied, I've learned, and they're just there for the fun of it. And that's why 90% of the people in the stock market are here for the fun of it, and they believe they can make a killing. No, you're going to get killed unless you're reading, unless you're studying. I would guess, from Seeking Alpha, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 emails a day. And because I've gone in and I've put my portfolio into Seeking Alpha, and every article that anybody writes about any company that I want knowledge on, they send me an email. And I read the headlines. If I want to know more about it, I read it. And I read and I read and I read. The first 3 hours of every day, or I'd say the first hour, is spent reading so that I can be better at it than you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh no.
That's a short answer.
So maybe to summarize what both you, Trent and Kerry, y'all both said, kind of like maybe since I'm like 10 years away from retirement, I have about 50% of my portfolio, the way I look at the money I'm deploying, to something like a S&P ETF, or 50% to the Magnificent Seven stocks. I don't know if I heard that correctly.
Let me say, stop you there. There is no way in hell I would put a penny in the S&P 500.
Okay.
Because over the last 20 years, its average return was 11%. I'm sorry. If I'm going to work this hard, I don't want 11%. I want 25 to 33 minimum.
So did I miss you?
So what I would look at, Hank, is I have built the ETF tracker, and it is more of a core holding portfolio. It does not adjust like the bus 12 or bus 13 stocks, so it doesn't come out of allocation as fast. That to me is where I would start with the core. Is I'd mimic the core, the ETF tracker, and then I would add alpha to it with the bus 12 and bus 13 stocks. That's my opinion, but Kerry and I differ a little bit.
You got to study.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're in the game with everybody else.
Okay, maybe I'm confused on that part. What do you mean by the core ETF tracker?
So there's in the platinum. Are you a platinum member or a premium?
I'm a platinum member.
Okay, so there on the website, on the Discord, there is the ETF tracker, and it's a you go to it, and it's got 20 positions in it, and it's based on the allocation is based on the principles that Mark teaches in the swing trading, but used on a longer term perspective. So for instance, last year it was heavy in tech. It was tech. It goes through about 200 different ETFs every day and reallocates based on that. We've seen a move from tech, healthcare, and financials to now more commodity-based type companies or ETFs. So to me, that is the core. Okay, that is something it's not going to fluctuate when it comes to the allocation all that much. You can be fully allocated in it. When it comes to adding the alpha, so that's that other 40%. That's the bus. That's the bus 12 and 13 portfolios. Those are the opportunities now. And there's more volatility in those. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to lower the downside risk and increase the upside potential. And then when it comes to swing trading, it's like 10%.
Okay,
Right
and
up in
you've got your
emails.
homework to do.
Okay.
Come
Thank
back next week and ask some questions.
Can I ask you one quick question before we get off?
Sure,
I know you have to go. That ETF tracker, is it also on your website? If I don't know how to use Discord, because I've tried to use it and had
It's
no
on the
result.
website.
Yeah.
So what section on the website? Just look for
When you
ETF.
page down, where you see Kerry's swing or Kerry's portfolio or whatever it says, it's right there with it.
Okay. And it'll say
Okay.
ETF tracker. Just look at that. Okay.
Yeah, that gives you allocation. I'm actually putting up my email. You can email me at support at Best of US Investors, and shoot me some questions over the weekend, and I'll answer them and give them back. Get back to you about those.
Okay, that'd be
About
great.
them and give you some guidance. Yeah, Kerry and I spoke about this actually this week about how do we tie all of this in together, the ETF tracker, the bus 12, bus 13 portfolios, the cheat sheet, and swing trading. How do we create how do we make you a portfolio manager of your assets? How do you become, a Ken Griffin of Citadel and manage and take that approach of risk management and approach? And so that's part of you're going to see more of that, how to tie all this together in the future.
That will be awesome because for people that are new, that will be a big help. So help us navigate.
This is when I after I sold my business, we were managing about 400 million in assets. And this is how we looked at allocation. And our client base ranged from the 18-year-old all the way up to the 92-year-old. So managing risk and allocating properly, but yet minimize the downside risk, so the upside return would increase. And so I come from a mindset of risk management and allocation. You're 52. The number one thing you have to have in your process, I'm 55, is you can't lose money. You cannot lose money at this point in life.
Okay.
You if you're 10 years out or whatever, if you're 13 years out from retirement right now, the name of the game for you is I cannot lose money. How do I position and risk manage around this? And we're in an environment that is 10 times bigger than the great financial crisis. And risk and losing money. And think about this. The people who stayed the course through the great financial crisis took them 4 to 5 years just to get back to zero. Okay. We don't have that much time.
Okay.
So we cannot lose money. So when you think about portfolio allocation, think about, if I buy this position, what is my downside risk? And go from and use that as your base principle of how you allocate and invest. So
Okay.
that's my thought.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just sent you I just put my email, support at bestusinvestors.com. Shoot me an email and I will answer them throughout the weekend and throughout the week and go from there.
Okay, let's do this again next week, and Brian, I'll look at the video.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us.
All right, take care, folks.
Have a good weekend.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.